President William Ruto has backed plans to sell state corporations without getting legislative approval from Parliament. The Cabinet has approved the Privatization Bill of 2023, which aims to repeal the Privatization Act of 2005. In that bill, if approved, the National Treasury will not require the approval of any legislators in order to privatize state corporations. Now, some lawmakers have rejected these proposals embedded into the bill, but the Cabinet says that the sale of non-strategic, non-performing public entities will actually help to raise funds to upgrade public infrastructure and improve the delivery of services to Kenyans while reducing the need for cash support directly from taxpayers. It adds that the Privatization Bill of 2023 will also generate more funds to drive the government's development agenda. Let's dig a little deeper into the details of this proposed law. Patrick Anam is a trade law analyst at Development Reimagined. He joins us now from Pretoria in South Africa. Patrick, thank you for your time. So let's start with the basics here. Kenya's had a Privatization Act in place since 2005. So what problem is this bill trying to solve that the existing law cannot?
Thank you for having me. Now, the current law on privatization in Kenya has certain basics which has to be followed by the commission, the Privatization Commission. So the suggestion by the president seems to be based on the fact that the current law has a lot of bureaucracies, that the executive now feels that Parliament is having a lot of influence in the way privatization of these assets is going on, and that they want it to be fastened. And that's why they are coming up with this proposed bill, seeking to basically repeal and therefore review the timelines that are based on the current law. But in my view, there's nothing wrong with the current law as it is. What there is maybe there's some legislative bureaucratic steps which can be sorted through an amendment of the existing law, as opposed to an overhaul, which is what the president is suggesting through this policy change.
Indeed, but all the arguments that are being made in favor of the bureaucratic issues. The Privatization Act came into effect in 2005. We still had Safaricom's IPO taking place 3 years later, one of the most successful IPOs this country has ever had. And at the same time, this government also has a majority in Parliament. So the bureaucratic obstacles, quote unquote, that they would potentially face in the House are really a non-issue, aren't they?
Yes, in my view, they're an issue, and I think, in my view, the fact that they've been what the cabinet feels that delays in privatization of certain assets is not, to me, a sensible argument, because some of these assets are strategic state corporations, and Parliament, which has the power under the current Act to review through its committee what is to be sold to private entities, is mandated under the Constitution to do oversight. So one could look at it at the point from the point of view that by trying to introduce this new law, the current administration is simply trying to be in a position to dispose certain critical assets of the country without involving the Parliament, and because parliamentarians represents the interest of the public. Therefore, this could be seen from an angle of the state trying to go ahead and dispose some of these critical assets without participation of the people.
And let me just pick up exactly on that point, because if essentially trying to cut out legislators, you're trying to cut out the people's representatives. In effect, you're denying them the ability to exercise their oversight function, and by extension, you could say you're essentially denying an opportunity for public participation in deciding whether or not these assets should remain public or go into private hands. Is this bill, on the face of it, even legal in the first place?
On the face of it, repeals usually happen every now and then. But now, even if the bill goes to Parliament, and of course, it's obviously going to face a lot of resistance, it's going to be, in my view, likely to be challenged in the courts, in the sense that it is a law that is trying to take away the legislative function of Parliament, and thereby taking away the ability of Parliament to try to protect the assets which have been run by public money. And therefore, to that extent, it's likely that someone is going to challenge the bill, once it's passed by Parliament, assuming Parliament does not achieve through its numbers to oppose it. is going to be challenged in the courts in terms of basically the state trying to arrogate itself the power to take away assets which are of national importance without involving parliament, the people through parliament. And it also creates the aspect of, the oversight that is there currently addresses issues like who are the coming investors and what is at stake, what is the value of these assets, and what is the liabilities. Right. Now, with this being taken away by the new bill, if it's passed, it's going to take away so much agency in the public. And I think these are the controversies we're likely to see in the days to come.
Indeed. We'll see how this plays out once, of course, that bill does head over to Parliament. Patrick Anam, trade analyst there from Development Reimagined, joining us there from Pretoria.